fast. And that's the memo. Now for the top story tonight, Senators John McCAIN and John Kyle of Arizona asking Mr. Obama to send 3,000 troops to the Mexican border. For Mr. McCAIN, this is a reversal. In the past, he opposed troops down there. Senator and I debated the issue a number of times here on The Factor, as you may remember. So what has changed? Joining us now from Washington is Senator John McCAIN. Now, before we get to the border, Senator, am I wrong about what's driving political cynicism across the country?
No, you're exactly right, except that I would like to make one additional point, and that is there has never been any real outreach for bipartisanship by this administration. They came with 60 votes, which they don't have anymore, overwhelming majority in the House, and they have decided they would drive things through, hopefully to pick up a Republican senator or two, but the fact is there has never been genuine outreach to try to get things done on a bipartisan basis.
Now, when Bill Clinton was president, did he outreach?
Yes, he did.
He did?
Yes, he did.
So this, in your experience, then, this is a totally different ballgame right now.
Listen, we had some very spirited discussions and disputes with President Clinton, but when the time came, he sat down, we did immigration, this next topic, we did welfare reform, we did a number of other reforms, we had balanced budget agreements, we had a number of other agreements that we were able to reach. This administration has decided, again, on financial regulatory reform, just drive it through and see if the Republicans go along. And there has not been real negotiation. I know it when I see it. I have done it, and it's not there with this administration.
Okay. Now let's get to the border. You've been calling for troops for about a year. And what has changed since we spoke first in May of 2000? Wow, that went fast. Wasn't that a fast 10 years?
Time flies when you're having fun.
2001, 9 years.
Yeah.
You and I disagreed on the troops on the border, but now you've changed your mind. Why?
Well, I changed it over a year ago. As you know, the violence on the border is incredible. Let me just give you a couple of numbers. One, in the Tucson sector alone of our border, last year there was over 1.3 million pounds of marijuana apprehended. There were over 241,000 individual apprehensions. Today, John Kyle and I had two great sheriffs with us from Arizona. One is the head of the Arizona Sheriff's Association. His name is Paul Babot. He represents the area where a lot of this is funneling through. And Sheriff Larry Deaver of Cochise County, where the rancher was just murdered recently.
Yeah, Mr. Krenz.
They will tell you, Mr. Krenz, Robert Krenz, wanton murder by what most likely is a drug dealer. They will tell you the violence is ratcheted up dramatically. These drug smugglers and human smugglers are heavily armed, and the violence is reaching a level where, frankly, it's spilling across onto our border, and we need to have troops down there on the border. We need to have an increase in number of border patrol. We need to do this Operation Streamline, where you convict people who are illegals and put them in prison for a while. And by the way, 17% of those who are crossing our border and are apprehended are guilty of crimes that they have committed in the United States of America.
Right, you deport them and they come back.
This is not just...
Look, listen, I'm with you all the way.
But Bill, they have actually committed crimes.
I know.
It isn't just the crime of crossing the border.
Right.
So the violence has skyrocketed.
You deport them and they come back. All right, look, we're with you here, but what I don't understand is this. The governor of Arizona, call out the guard. She's in charge of the guard. Just call them out and put them down there.
She can, but you know as well as I do, the state is broke, and it's a federal responsibility.
It is a federal responsibility.
The guard was out in 2006, as you know, and it had a very beneficial effect.
Absolutely.
Military are respected by these drug smugglers and these coyotes, and they did have a beneficial effect. It's a federal responsibility, so therefore the feds should pay for it, and our state is broke.
Okay, I got it. Now, next week, the governor's going to sign, we believe, a very stringent state law that gives the police in Arizona very, very broad authority to question people. And a lot of people say it's going to be racial profiling. You're going to look for Hispanics, question them to see if they're here illegally or not. And it's just not fair. And you say what?
I say that the federal responsibilities have not been fulfilled. Therefore, the states are acting. The state of Arizona is acting, and doing what they feel they need to do in light of the fact that the federal government is not fulfilling its fundamental responsibility to secure our borders.
But what about the racial profiling? You know
that's
going to happen. It has to happen.
I hope. I would be very sorry that if some of that happens, and I regret it, but I also regret really, it's not just the murder of Robert Krentz. It's the people whose homes and property are being violated. It's the drive-by the drivers of cars with illegals in it that are intentionally causing accidents on the freeway. Look, our border's not secured. Our citizens are not safe.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I just don't want the law to make things worse, although I would support the law. Last question. You're in a tight race with J.D. Hayworth for the Republican primary. Mm-hmm. Some cynical people, not me, but you know them, say, look, Senator McCain is now the big conservative. He's not the maverick anymore because Hayworth is more right than you are, and you reply?
My reply is that I demanded that we send troops to the border over a year ago. I also would argue that anybody who does pork barrel earmark spending, as Mr. Hayworth did, and gets involved with Abramoff, is not a conservative. I'm proud of my conservative record.
All right, Senator.
And I'm the same guy.
We appreciate you taking the time, and we want to mention to the audience we did have Mr. Hayworth on a couple of weeks ago, so we are fair and balanced here on The Factor. Next on the rundown, President Clinton